morning, John. How are you?
Nick, if I were any better, I'd be twins.
I don't get that reference, but fantastic. I'm glad to hear that.
If you don't get it, then it had the desired effect.
Good. Well,
I love to confuse you right at the beginning.
Right. Yeah.
I don't even like Quaddy. Why are we doing this?
He confuses me right and left. I just don't know what he's talking about half the time, which is probably why it's so entertaining, because I don't know what's going on half the time.
Now you're sounding like my wife.
Pretty much, it's the story of my life. I don't understand what's happening right now.
What's happening to me?
Well, just before we hopped on, you and I were talking about the way my house is set up, and having to go down and tell my daughter that she had an appointment that was coming up in about 20 minutes. My wife had asked me to run down there and kind of motivate her to get ready. And my office is actually on the third floor of our house. So I ran all the way down the stairs and all the way back up because I had left you sitting here on the line. And I wanted to hurry back so we could get started. And I am still struggling to catch my breath. It's just crazy how out of shape I am. And I know this dates the podcast because our podcast, if our listener doesn't know, we actually record these way ahead of time, and we walk through kind of a cycle and a schedule. And so what we're recording right now is probably not going to air for a few weeks.
Or 10 years or so, probably 10 years.
Or 10 years, you're right, until we really want to hone our craft, it's important to us. And
no, it's not.
Yeah, so that it's not. It really isn't. Anyway, so I ran up the stairs. I'm very, very. I was very winded. I'm better now.
Gasping for air. Gasping
for air. And it's. I think part of the reason is I'm not in horrible shape. I'm not in great shape. I don't work out consistently like you do, John. I know you do. I don't work out consistently, but I do. I like to get out and do stuff. I like to hike. I like to walk and try to get steps in and things like that. So I'm not in horrible shape, but we just finished up the holiday season. I sat on my butt a lot over the holiday season and ate a ton of food because that's what the holidays are about.
Happy
I enjoy spending time with friends and family.
Yes, right.
Well, we're past that, John.
Yeah, I know, but it's the perfect time to help us feel better about ourselves and how much we ate.
Right. Very true. Very true. But I still feel like I put on some weight. So of course my next, or one of my New Year's resolutions, the one that sticks every year, and I stick to it for a good 6 months. I'm pretty proud of myself for that, is now I have to lose all the weight that I gained during the holiday season.
And it takes you 6 months to do that?
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah. If it probably should take me more. I do go up a pant size every year. Anyway, and for the listener that is enjoying our podcast right now, I do start my holiday season right around Halloween. So I'm just throwing that out there.
And you said you go up a pant size. I've only seen you wear those big stretch pants. They have bigger sizes too?
Yeah. So I go up a size in the stretch pants. I can wear them for 2 years before I replace them.
That's hot. I'm just kidding. He's a very fine dresser. And you are in your own, and I will defend you because you are typically quite svelte when
thank you.
See you in person. Well, you are. You are not chunky or chubby or the F word at all. And that was fat, not nasty F words.
Yeah. No. I was going with the nasty F word, but thank you for clarifying. Yes, I so definitely am. I sure am. I thought for a long time of changing my middle name to the F word, to Nicholas Fuckface Cubic.
Nice. That's a double one.
Yeah,
double F word.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's excellent.
Go big or go home. And right now I feel like I'm going big. You haven't seen me in a bathing suit, so I hide things very well under the clothing that I choose.
Even though you've offered many times to send me pictures, I still have not seen you in a bathing suit. Thank you, though, for the offer.
I do know that some people consider Speedos to be bathing suits, but I'm just not there. It's more of a banana hammock for me.
Yeah, that's like a marble pouch. We're not in Europe anymore.
We digress.
Oh my gosh, let's digress quickly.
Yeah.
So this time of the year, though, and you're right, and I'm hearing this. I don't know what the percentage is, but it seems like one of the top resolutions of every year for every person is to get in shape. And it runs. And so even we're like mid-January recording this. So whenever you hear it, you'll still know that there's going to be a diminishing number of people in the gym.
Right.
Because they went there on the 2nd of January, and by whenever you're hearing this, whether it's in March or April or May or whenever, that number has diminished significantly because those people do not keep going to the gym. But there's a complete difference as somebody who I haven't for a while, and we'll explore that later, but somebody who used to work out 3 or 4 times a week, it was not uncommon to see a bunch of newbies early in the year. And then, as the year wears on, you just had to be patient. Sometimes I would just work out at home until they got tired of coming to the gym.
Yeah.
And then, and then come back.
That brings up an interesting question. I wonder if there's some statistics out there about the best time, if you're a bargain shopper and just a bargain shopper in general, when it is the best time of the year to actually go and purchase a gym membership. When is it the easiest to do, and when is it the cheapest? Because all of these New Year's resolution people have died off and have moved on and are on to their next non-resolution.
I don't think they've actually died.
But that was a poor choice of words. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but that would probably be a reason not to go for, maybe change your resolution. If the death rate is high at your gym, you may have to go for a different resolution.
Well, do you want to change your resolution or just change your gym? And which is easier?
Yeah, maybe the gym. Yeah, that's an excellent point. When they call it the gym Hades, you probably want to avoid that.
Very true. Now, but could you say now, in all fairness and all reality, there is a big difference between getting in shape and going to the gym, getting healthy, or just feeling good and losing weight. So there are a number of different ways you can do that. It's not just working out. Now, that's a very important part.
I've heard it said that it's 80% diet and only 20% exercise. And a lot of people, and fudge the number 10% either way, but a huge part of it, more than working out, is the diet aspect of it. So what you eat is more important than what you do.
That's, I've honestly never heard that. And that, for some reason, strangely enough, that number makes me feel a lot better because I don't like to work out, but I love to work on diet. 2 of the Christmas presents I got in 2018 were cookbooks, were healthy cookbooks. And I love to find recipes and look into different diets and find out there's so much conflicting information about diets that work and diets that don't.
Oh, for sure.
And I believe that the diet that works for you is the right diet. If that diet keeps you healthy and helps you get to where you want to be, then that's the right diet. And whether that means you're eating a ton of bread or no bread, you're not eating meat, you are eating meat, you're only eating fish, whatever works for you, it should be the diet that you choose. And
if you find that ton of bread diet, would you please let me know?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I love bread.
Oh, me too.
And I've never seen a ton of bread that would help me lose weight. It's the bread diet.
The bread diet.
I eat 5 loaves every day, and I'm losing weight like a banshee. Well, I haven't heard of that one.
Someone with celiac disease might lose a lot of weight for eating bread that much.
Yeah, you're brilliant. See, you found that high percentage. I have celiac, mister, and I lost weight like a banshee because I ate a lot of bread.
Yeah.
So you're right. I stand corrected.
So have you experimented with any
your celiac friends? I'm sorry.
It's okay. Have you experimented with any diets recently or in the past? Tell me about some of your different diets. You're most successful and your least successful.
Well, mine were always the low carb ones. Once I finally figured out the low carb thing, and it started with Atkins, which was 15 years ago, maybe, or even longer, where, people call it the high protein diet or what. It was low carb or managing your carbs. And it didn't say you couldn't have any. You were just supposed to stay below 100 a day. 100 grams of carbs a day, depending upon which phase of the program you were in. So I actually did very well. I lost, I want to say I lost 30 or 40 pounds maybe.
Oh, wow.
When I first did that. Well, and I kept it off for a while, but then, there's that bread thing that always bites me in my voluptuous ass. And it, that's what got me to gain weight back again, because it's the bread, or it's, something sugary or something that I'm not supposed to have under the diet. So people say you put the weight back on. Well, not if you stick with the diet. If you change it, of course, you're going to put weight back on. And I think that's true of a lot of them. But that one was, and Atkins comes under many different names now. It's essentially very similar to the South Beach diet, or the, what else? The keto, they talk about it, the caveman diet, or all of those. Mm-hmm. They're essentially just managing your insulin, your blood sugar levels. And by doing that effectively, you're avoiding taking in sugars and avoiding taking in carbs, especially the processed carbs, trying to stay away from that stuff. And that seemed to work pretty well for me. But I've never really tried the fasting, and I've kind of wondered about that. And have you had any experience with that, or any different types of diets?
Oh yeah. And I think, I've got a great story about the fasting, but before I do that, curious, you have worked in the car business for how many years now?
Oh gosh. Well, if you consider all the times I've worked, in automotive at some level, it's been 40 years probably.
So in 40 years, I'm surprised you haven't tried the coffee and cigarettes diet.
Oh, I have. And yes.
Okay, good.
That
didn't work for you?
Oh, it worked beautifully for me. It was, but I think the exercise part of it helped, because I was shaking so badly most of the time. And I think there was, I think the one I was on also had a large amount of alcohol, diets. I think that was also,
yeah. I forgot about that
one. It
one.
went hand in hand with the coffee and cigarettes.
Right. I know a lot of car dealers that are on the blow diet too. So, they tend to lose weight fast.
Yes, right.
Not really. Not anymore, folks. That was in the past. That was in the past.
Many years ago.
Many years ago, as I rub my nose. Anyway, no, I'm kidding. I've never done that. Never, ever done that.
Good. Because dang, I've seen it destroy a lot of people's lives in the car business.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And quite honestly, I've never done the smoking part of it either. I've only ever done the coffee, and I enjoy a couple of drinks here and there. But I think we talked about on one of our previous episodes, I don't drink very much because I just don't like the way it makes me feel. So, but my vice has always been coffee. And when I was in retail, when I was working in a store, I drank so much coffee. I'm right there with you on the shakes. It was a good workout. But going back to your initial question.
Yeah,
I have done some fasting. I've tried that before. I actually did it recently. What makes it easy for me is the fact that I drive a lot. So I'm in the car. In the mornings, it's really hard for me to eat. Because I'm never hungry. I really don't feel hungry. And I think one thing my wife has taught me, she's into a lot of fitness. She was a professional dancer at one point in her life. And I apologize for anyone that can hear my dog in the background. She likes to whine when I'm not paying attention to her.
We love her. She's so cute.
Bonnie Bears. I have two dogs in the room, Bonnie and Clyde. And we're going to have it. John and I already talked about this. We're going to have an episode about our dogs at some point, because we're both dog lovers. But anyway, I digress yet again. I don't like to eat in the morning. I'm not usually hungry. My wife has taught me, eat when you feel hungry. Don't Don't just listen to your body. If you don't feel hungry, don't eat. There are a lot of different people out there, a lot of different arguments. Some people say, have meal every 3 hours, which actually my wife does. That's her particular diet, but there's health reasons for that. But there are other people that say just eat when you get hungry. Sorry, I'm snapping at my dog.
Better than the other way around.
Anyway, so there's
yes,
right. She's a sweetheart. Good. She would never snap at me. So anyway, my wife told me that, and so I try to live by that. But on the same token, after this holiday we've been talking about, I've just felt over full because I've just been eating and eating and eating constantly. So for the first week back at work, as I'm on the road, I didn't eat breakfast. I'd have my very first thing I do every morning is drink water anyways, before I even have coffee, before I do anything. I just drink a big glass of water to just help that whole process start. But so I got my coffee, I jumped in the car and I started driving, and I didn't eat anything. And then I did have a little bit of something, just a little bit of beef jerky when I went to my hotel room. That was one of the tricks I've heard about again, to just as an overreaching disclaimer for everybody, we are not diet experts. We are only talking about things that we have tried and that we do or that we have heard work for us. So we are not trying to get anyone to try anything specific. We're not sponsored by anyone. And you should always consult your physician before trying any diet plan. That being said, for me, I have heard that when you fast, you shouldn't actually go without anything. You should just fast during the day and then have a very light meal at the end of the day to satisfy any hungers, just to make sure that you're actually keeping fuel in the system. So for me, fasting doesn't mean going hungry for 3 days straight. Now, I know some people that have done it that way. I can't do that. I'll get horrible headaches
as opposed to good
and
headaches.
Be cranky and not be able to sleep. And that's just, that's not conducive. Right. I've had some doozies. Right. So I just, and especially when you're at work, you need to be at peak performance at all times, especially with what we do. So, being miserable is not an option for me. So yes, I have tried my type of fasting before, and I've done that for 2 or 3 days in a row. And it does make you feel a lot better. It kind of resets the system. I've also tried juice diets, which I love juicing. I have a juicer. So sometimes when I'm just feeling overly bloated and I want a kind of a cleanse, I will juice. But again, I only juice in the morning and for lunch. I won't juice for dinner. I'll eat a regular meal. It'll be a light meal. It'll be vegetables. It might be fish if I want a certain protein, but or some other form of protein, maybe beans. So it's but again, it has made me feel the best. But to be completely honest with you, John, and I'm not, I want to be careful when I say this because I know a lot of vegans. I know a lot of vegetarians. My wife and I did try, she much longer than I did, but we did try to go vegan and vegetarian, not necessarily for the conscientious side, though my wife does it for the conscientious side of the veganism. She's not a full vegan in the concept of veganism, as most vegans will argue. She did it mainly for the diet aspect. Which means there's no animal protein whatsoever, eggs, cheese, nothing. It's pure vegetables. We actually, for a couple of days, tried the raw vegan, which was even more difficult. But it is a very difficult diet when you're not used to it. I managed vegan for about a week before I realized I can't live without my eggs and my cheese. That's just my personal vice. So I did vegetarian, and I did vegetarian for about 3 or 4 months. To be quite honest, that was the best I have ever felt in my entire life. It was fantastic. My biggest problem is I missed the taste of things, and there is no substitute for a good Italian sausage. I'm sorry. I don't care what anyone says. I have not been able to find one ever that just satisfies me the way that does. So what I try to do in my current diet is limit meat as much as possible. And I stick to vegetables. Again, it's very difficult on the road. I won't hide that. The last couple of road trips I've not been eating well, but that's kind of how my diets have gone and my structure. But to be honest, it has never, ever, ever, from a weight standpoint, mattered what I ate. It has always mattered the quantity in which I eat. So I could eat pizza every single day. As long as I limited my intake of that pizza, I will lose weight.
If I had my choice, I'd go with like dreamsicles.
Dreamsicles, yep, absolutely. You could have about a quarter of a dreamsicle and you'll be fine.
No. You said it doesn't, it's the amount you said, not what.
Right. So a quarter of a dreamsicle.
Oh, you have to get on the right amount.
Exactly, yeah. So I mean, I could.
Well, I think that's for everybody. That's a caloric.
Yep.
That's the caloric value, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. And they have all these, in fact, you see a lot of these ads in fitness magazines and so on that will show a plate full of broccoli versus a cookie on another plate. Right. And they both have the same exact caloric value.
Yeah. My biggest problem is I would eat that whole plate of broccoli because I love broccoli. So
I'm not sure that's a problem.
My caloric intake was exactly the same. Excuse me. No, it's not a problem. But again, it's moderation. It's the quantity in which, everything should be in moderation. And I think I tell people all the time when they look at what I eat, I say I eat the broccoli and the quinoa and the fish for my physical health. I eat the brownie for my mental health. Because I don't care how healthy you are physically. If you're not mentally happy, if you're not happy about what you're eating, if you can't enjoy what you're eating, then there's no why do it.
I would tend to agree. I just think there are so many different ways of preparing food that, for instance, if you're doing meal planning, I know a lot of people, especially heavy fitness people, let me rephrase that, people who are heavily into fitness.
They're heavy because they have a lot of muscle mass.
Yes, that's what it is. Those type of fitness people often prepare all their meals for the week on Sunday nights. And it's the, all your major proteins, like if you're not vegan or vegetarian, it'll be chicken typically. It may be some red meat, but very little. The only benefit to red meat for bodybuilders is that it's higher in protein per ounce than fish is or chicken is or whatever.
Right.
But most of them it's chicken, and then they'll have a bunch of veggies and they do all that for the week, and it's often the same meal. So they're taking these things to work or wherever, and that's what they eat for lunch, and it's the same lunch every day. Now they may mix a few things up or whatever, but I need some, and to your point, I need some variation, some variety in what I eat. And it's not that I don't like having, I really do enjoy. Can you hear my dog? He's greeting the FedEx man, which is delightful.
See, now you're getting me excited for our dog episode.
Okay, so you know what? Let me digress for a second, because this is what happened. The FedEx guy one time gave my dog 2 treats when he came to the door. So all that does is cause my dog to bark like a freak anytime anyone comes to the door now, because he thinks it's the FedEx guy, or more to the point, he thinks he's going to get some treats if he barks wildly. And
that's a well-trained dog for only 2 treats.
It's cost me more than that in the treat realm. Anyway, but that's why he barks like a fiend. And happily, the guy is here and he's done barking. So, the thing about, as you said, about eating, I got to have some variety. You got to mix it up a little bit, because I just can't do the same thing all the time. And like you, I love fish. Our neighbor is a fisherman here in town, and he'll go down to the little lake that's a mile away, and he'll give us these panfish. They're bluegills or whatever. They're delicious, absolutely delicious. And that with with some rice or a nice salad or something, I am totally happy with that. But I couldn't eat it every day. And I think the variety, as you said, it's what works for you. The variety is what really tunes it up for a lot of people. What you can remain on for a diet really has to do with, can you sustain that in the difficult times and in the easy times as well?
Right. Well, I have a little bit of a different take on that too. I do love variety, and that's variety is the spice of life. Ooh, taking it back. Anyway,
wow, let me write that down.
But I do have a little bit different take. I personally could eat the same thing every single day. It doesn't bother me. I do like something fun, like on the weekends. Here's my take on that. And this is where my wife and I actually get into it a lot. I could eat the same thing every day if it was made fresh for me every day. I am not a leftovers person. Like I'll eat pizza the next day. If I love cold pizza or cold Chinese, I'll eat that the next day just fine. Anything after that, anything after the second day, not going to touch it. My wife will look at something in the fridge, and as long as there isn't fuzz growing on it, she'll eat it. She, though, on the other hand, can't eat the same thing every day or every meal. She has to have variety. Even though she can put something in the fridge and keep it there for a week, 2 weeks, or until fuzz grows on it, and then eat it before the fuzz.
Yeah.
She still has to have something different. I could make a pot of spaghetti. And if I did eat leftovers for 3 days, I could eat that same pot of spaghetti for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 3 days. It would not bother me. But again, leftovers, I can't do leftovers. I do not like leftovers. Yep.
See, I can, but
I can't do for that reason.
Yeah, it would just vary for me. And this is weird, but for leftovers, it varies what I'll eat. For example, if I make, ground chuck and I just brown it and use it maybe use it in spaghetti sauce, which I will often do. But let's say there's some leftover ground chuck. I can eat that ground chuck until it gets fuzzy. But chicken that's 2 or 3 days old, I'm probably not going to go back after.
Yeah, I can say that too. So
yeah,
it does vary. And a lot of times, so using your ground chuck example, I know I can recook that. I know I can put that in another dish and eat it. I couldn't eat it straight. I couldn't eat it as the former meal, but I put it in another meal. I put it in chili or something like that. Then that's fine. But I'm the same way. If we have fish one night and there's a piece left over, put it in the fridge. I'm not touching it the next day.
Yeah, there are certain meal or certain foods that I'm just not going to go after the second time. And I think that is the variety thing. And you got to be honest with yourself. If you're not one to do that, then that's probably not the diet for you. That's probably not the plan for you. One of the things we talked about fasting briefly, and one of the new things, and I'm not sure how new it is, but it's intermittent fasting, where you fast essentially every day for 14 hours. So for the remaining 8 hours of the day, no, how many? 6 hours? I have no idea what I'm doing. The remaining 10 hours of the day, right? 14 hours. The remaining 10 hours of the day, you can eat whatever you want and as much until you're full. But then for whatever it is, 16, so that'd be 8 hours, forgive me, 16 hours, then you don't eat. And so yep, go.
I was going to say my dad, interestingly enough, did a similar diet, and I don't know. I don't know how it affected. I was too young to really see if it made a difference in his health, but he would do, I think it was called the warrior diet, where he would pretty much fast during the day, but whenever he felt hungry, he could have like a handful of peanuts or something just to satisfy the hunger, but not a full meal. It was basically just snacking, but he could only have things like nuts or veggies or something that was extremely healthy. And then when it got to dinner time, then he would have a massive meal and eat until he was full and then keep himself full until bedtime. I think it was called the warrior diet. So very similar to that. And that was a long time ago.
But then would he, and I'm not sure of that diet, but the difference and what this intermittent fasting is, when you wake up in the morning, you don't eat and you have to wait. So for example, your 8 hour window might be from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. that you can eat whatever you want. But after 7, you're done. And before 7 or before 11, you can't eat anything. And so it's that 16 hours between 7 p.m. and 11 a.m. gets to be pretty long. Some people survive it very well. And apparently that intermittent fasting is quite effective for some people.
That's interesting because that in some cases, that's pretty much, it could be, you could manipulate it to say that's pretty much what everyone does at some level, or some people do. Because if I don't eat breakfast, I'm only drinking water and coffee. And then I might start eating lunch, or I might start at lunch eating something at about noon.
Yeah.
And I'm done eating everything by 7:00 at night. So that's 7 hours, and then I won't eat anything until the following lunch. So, I mean, that's, I guess, you really could trick the system, literally and figuratively.
So that's what you're doing already.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily like it.
I think that's the problem with diets.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy this one. I love the dreamsicle diet that John talked about. Sounded really good to me.
Yeah, it did. It really did.
Yeah.
You did mention alcohol earlier too.
Oh yeah, not a good thing. Not a good thing for dieting.
No, not a good thing at all.
Yeah.
So go on. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt your story.
Well, no. It's just interesting. I have heard there are other concepts that people talk about that one I heard for many years is how important breakfast is, and non-breakfast eaters don't really want to hear that, because if you're not hungry and you don't feel like eating in the morning, what's the point?
Right.
As your wife told you, eat when you're hungry. But the rule of thumb often for people who work out or bodybuilders or whatever would be to eat breakfast like a king and eat lunch like a prince and eat dinner like a pauper, because the less you eat for your evening meals, the better. The more you eat, you have the full day to digest and burn off whatever you have at breakfast. And so it's a decreasing size or caloric intake probably for all of those meals.
You have to think of food as a fuel, and that's exactly what they're thinking of it at. We're all constructed differently. And sometimes I don't eat breakfast because I'm not hungry, or I might not get hungry until 10 a.m., even though I've been up since 6. It makes more sense to me because I'm not working out. And maybe that's the key. If I were working out more, I would probably want to eat more. I mean, that's just a given. That's how, again, our bodies are built. If I'm going at 6:00 every morning and I'm doing a hour and a half workout, I'm going to be hungry. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So I can eat a bigger meal, right? But since I'm in a car all day.
Yeah, that's true. And that's an excellent point, that if you're not burning it, you're probably not desiring it as much. The one thing that a lot of people say, though, when it comes to working out is if you're going to do cardio, especially if you're seeking to burn fat, that you want to, which Lord knows I am, you want to burn calories or do your cardio on an empty stomach.
Right.
And so the thinking is that you are not going to burn any carbs because you haven't taken any in. So you'll burn fat immediately when you do your intense cardio workout. The problem is if you follow it up with strength training, there's an argument that you don't have enough strength to go on once you've done cardio and have nothing in your fuel tank.
Right. And that's why some people that work out, they stagger their workouts throughout the day, if they're doing it more of a professional way. But of course, most of us aren't like that. So it makes no difference in that regard. And you make
yeah. Plus, I don't want to be sweaty all day long.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And you make a really good point too about, the differences in when to eat, how to eat, and wanting to lose weight. I actually read a study recently, and my point is, first, I'm going to make the point, then tell the story. My point is there are a lot of different professionals out there, different researchers, different scientists that are all telling us different things. They're all contradicting each other. So there's a lot of that out there. And again, my personal belief is listen to your body, do what your body tells you is the right thing for you, and stick to that, because ultimately it's what makes you feel the best, not about what other people see.
Excellent point.
So on that, there was an article that I read that actually said, or was talking about the science behind losing fat. And do you know what that article said, how we actually lose fat? Because going back to what you're saying you're doing cardio, and it's a perfect example. You're doing cardio. What do you think is actually burning the fat, or how do you think the fat is actually going away on your body? Is it being absorbed into your bloodstream? Is it just going away because your body is burning it like it's burning the food fuel that you would put in your stomach?
I think that's part of it. I think part of it is burned in a different way too, based on your bodily fluids that you're excreting over time and during the day.
So that's what I thought. All of those things are things that I had thought throughout the years, but this article actually said, no, we breathe it out, which is why cardio is one of the best ways to lose weight, because every breath that you exhale, you're exhaling the fat molecules. And that's how you actually lose weight, is through your breathing and not through any other means.
That's the difference between aerobic and anaerobic training. There is still a regard to see most muscle training, most anything anybody does that's a strength-based training is anaerobic. It may increase your breathing rate while you're doing the exercise, but then it immediately falls off. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know that's the only way to burn weight or to burn fat. I think that it depends what you do. If you're working out and you have a good diet plan and so on, we said that 80-20 rule where 80% of it's diet, only 20% is working out. There are many, many studies that suggest cardio alone is not nearly as effective as strength training with cardio. And I've read all those things, and I whether they're accurate or not, as you said, it seems like a lot of people have their own agenda when it comes to what works. Well, is it you're saying what works because that's what your program is and that's what you're trying to sell me? Or, well, I'm a doctor. I would never do that. And most of my doctor friends are very straightforward and will tell you, what makes the most sense. But in reality, that's not how the world works, because it's a multi-billion-dollar a year industry, fitness and nutrition. And it's incredible how much money people spend on that stuff. And I'm one of them.
Oh yeah. We are too. I have the credit card bill to prove it. So my dad was big into fitness for a very long time. And going back to what you were saying about the cardio part of it, he actually used to tell me, don't worry about cardio. You don't need to run. You don't need to do the treadmill. You don't need to warm up. Just lift weights. Lift weights will burn all of the fat that you want to burn. So he was of that thinking. Yep. And then I've heard others. I have a doctor friend he said, it doesn't matter if you lift weights unless you want muscle mass. If you want to build your muscles and make them look big, if you just want to lose weight, run, walk, hike, just do that. That's good enough for you. So there are a lot of conflicting ways of doing it.
There are. And the truth is, if you build more muscle mass, it burns more calories than fat. Or a lack of muscle, let's say. And so, there are a lot of different ways to look at it. And as you age, running isn't always an option because, you've got injuries, you've got, I know my neighbor is an Ironman, and he's done Ironman, I guess we call them races, 7 times. And this guy's my age, he's mid-50s, and he's great. He's done a really good job, but he's torn up his legs, and he just can't do it anymore. But his muscles and everything from ankles to his Achilles to he can't do it anymore. And so now what? You got to have a plan B. It seems like all the time.
I think too, you make another great point. sometimes we take it a little bit too far. And if we take it too far, then it doesn't matter. We have to stay consistent. Everything in life is moderation and consistency.
And you said that earlier, and you're right on about that. I think the older you get, the more you figure that out, that it is about moderation. It's not about, going, and we think, well, if working out burns this amount, then I should work out more. Or if going on the keto diet burns a little, I'm gonna do all in to that. Well, I'm not sure that's always the answer, as you say.
And a lot of times it has to do with your body shape and your genes and things like that. Again, my dad worked out like a madman. I did not work out. If you had my dad and I standing next to each other, and I'm not talking about right now because, my dad's 70 years old. I'm 40. Well, even I don't know how much he works out much anymore. He just had his knee replaced, so probably not a lot. But he let's say 10 years ago, if you had us standing next to each other, he's working out all the time. I'm not working at all. And we look pretty much the same. Same body shape, same belly, same everything.
Yeah.
He could probably run a lot farther than I could. He could probably lift a lot more. But if you actually just looked at us, you couldn't really tell a difference.
But if you've got a car, it doesn't really matter how far he can run, right?
True. Very true. Depends on what you're running from, right?
Yes, exactly. My brother will do these bike rides, these marathon bike rides, and he's done them where they do, 150 miles in a weekend or whatever. And, this is really good. And I said, I could do 150 miles in a weekend. Of course, on the Harley, it's pretty easy to do that. And I have no problem with it. And I beat his time too, all the time.
I bet you do. And you do it in style.
In style, that's right.
You can't run in leather. I don't care what anyone says.
Well, not fast.
It's not very comfortable either, I hear.
It's like running in corduroy. It just doesn't.
There's a lot of pooling, too.
There's some pooling, and there's obviously some friction and perhaps some heat that we want to avoid.
Oh, at least it's not latex.
Have you run in latex?
I have not. But some of the outfits that the bikers wear look like latex, don't they? The biking shorts.
Well, okay. And so can I just talk about those shorts for a second? Because
please don't. Go ahead. Sorry.
I have to, but
We did talk about banana hammocks and marble sacks.
You did mention that earlier. Yeah. I wasn't sure that was on the recording, but now it is.
Yeah.
I guess it was. I've got full disclosure, a pair of those biking shorts, and I have a really nice bicycle up hanging in my garage, and it's hung there for a couple years, I think now. And
I was going to ask, how long has it been hanging there?
It still looks good. Yeah. So I think it's probably in great shape. I just don't know because I haven't been on it. But I've got the shorts nonetheless. And the shorts have like that gel padding that makes it look like you've pooped your pants wherever you go.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And you walk like you pooped your pants too, because you've got this package of gel and I've seen these people, they go into bars, they ride to a town and, oh man, that was a good ride. That was great. And they've got these gel filled shorts on and they go into the bar like Matt
Trick
Dillon.
Is, John, they've been riding for so long. Some of these shorts really don't have that package in the background. That they really did poop.
Well, if it's comfortable for them, who am I to judge? Jeez. But you watch them come in and go, seriously? And you wonder why the Harley guys have a little more cred when they come into the bar.
You see someone walk in those shorts and with the load in the back of their pants.
Load, yes.
Those type of bikers walk into a bar. Isn't that already a warning sign that a biker that's out there doing it for health is walking into a bar?
I guess maybe they're having
examine that.
Maybe they're having Michelob Ultra though. That's how they always do that. You got they show, and you've seen the Michelob Ultra ads, and I'm not taking pot shots at them. I've had that before.
And Michelob
not very
Ultra
often.
Is not a sponsor of PoddiMouths.
No, they're not yet. But I don't want to make them mad in case they're thinking about it.
Right.
Which I'm sure they are. Lord knows they're listening to this going, should we or shouldn't we?
Now we should. They've talked about us.
Yes. Just send them a check. But that's the thing. They show these in their commercials. They show these people working out and they're, the hot girls where they're out playing volleyball and diving for the ball and everything's great. And then they end up over by a bunch of iced down Michelob Ultras. And then they're slamming, well, I'm only going to have one. No, you're not. You're surrounded by dudes and girls who are relatively fit, and you're going to drink your face off. So I just know that it's not always what they're trying to sell you.
And I think it's my responsibility now to point out another fact about that. How many people really want to go for an extreme workout, and the first thing they want to do is go drink a beer?
Well, actually, now
I have never done a workout and wanted to go drink a beer.
There are studies that say the ideal post-workout drink is a beer.
You've got to be kidding me. That can't be real.
No. I've seen studies that say that, and I've also seen studies that say a glass of chocolate milk is the ideal. So I'm not, again, it's probably the self-serving studies, but I've seen reports that have said the best thing you can do after a workout is have a beer. And I guess if you're going to do that anyway, it's just giving you fodder for doing it.
That brings up another point we were talking about earlier about the difference in research and the difference in what people say are good for you. I wonder who created that study.
Yep. Ooh. That's a great question.
It's kind of like the cigarette industry for a long time, telling people the health benefits of smoking cigarettes.
Man. And that could be another conversation in itself, but let's visit that because it does kind of fall into the health sort of category that we're in today. I'm amazed as an ex-smoker too. I'm amazed at how the cigarette or the smoking culture has just changed so dramatically over the last 25 years. I mean, dramatically, even the last 5 or 10, it's changed a lot. And so you're a non-smoker and always have been. What does it look like to you, or how does it feel to you?
I don't know how to answer that. And I do want to say, full disclosure, I do have 1 or 2 cigars every year. So I'm not completely 100% sans smoking.
No, but I was talking about, you don't inhale cigars, do you?
I don't inhale. I never inhale.
Yeah, because that would knock your socks off if you're a non-smoker inhaling a cigar.
Right. And it's not that I haven't tried. I have tried cigarettes maybe once or twice in my life. I hated it. So
sure.
I have a different perspective. But my another disclosure is my mom was a smoker, and she did pass away from lung cancer. And as much as we know, it was caused by smoking. That being said, she had quit smoking almost to the day 20 years before she died.
Wow.
So but it's still very interesting. So I've always had a negative look at smoking. I think, does it look cool? Coming from someone who wanted to be a filmmaker for a long time, yes, I think it looks cool, quote unquote. But oh my God, does it smell? I hate the smell of it. I hate the smell of people's breath after they've smoked. I hate the smell on their clothes. I had a girlfriend whose parents were smokers and their house stank all the time. And when I came home, even if they didn't smoke around me, which I was very, very thankful for, but when I came back home from spending time at her house, I smelled like a cigarette, and it was nasty. I hated it. So as I've gotten older and I have friends that smoke, and I do the best I can to stay as far away from it as I possibly can. And, I mean, I'm not going to fault anyone for making choices. I'm very much a person that said, if that's what you want to do, go for it. I'm not going to judge you for it, but I really do. I really don't like it. And I'm glad that it's going away. I was one of the biggest proponents of restaurants being 100% smoke free. I love that. And same with bars. One of my favorite bars is a smoking bar in Nashville, but I go there maybe once I think the last time I was in there was 4 years ago. So I just think it's a neat place, but only in the summer when they have all the windows open and you really can't smell the smoke.
Well, and see, that's another element of it too. You know, I've been to some bars that are smoking bars or casinos in the case of Las Vegas, where they have an HVAC system that will absolutely blow you away. And some of them to the point that you just can't even tell that it's, you know, a smoking area or a smoking bar or casino or whatever. And that's, look, having been a smoker for 19 years and now a non-smoker for at least that, probably 20 or 21, I guess now, I'm probably the worst there is as far as being sensitive to the smoke smell, because like you, and it's different with different people. I think it's just a chemical makeup in some folks that they smell worse than others. My wife, and maybe she's just being polite, but she said when I smoked, I didn't have that stale body follow you wherever you go body smell from cigarettes. And I know some people who are just worse than others, where they have a cigarette and, oh my gosh, you just can't even get close to them because, as you mentioned, they just, it's just a stench that follows them around. And my wife's uncle was, he moved to cigars. Well, I better quit cigarettes. And he went to cigars, and he and his stepson ended up smoking Swisher Sweets, which look like cigarettes. They're little cigars, and they inhaled them. Ooh. So, I mean, worse than cigarettes suddenly, and their entire house smells like a Swisher Sweet cigar, and it was the most disgusting thing ever. And he, unfortunately, has since passed away. Maybe because of the stupid cigars, right. But it was just disgusting, the whole house. And I even think back to stuff like when I used to fly and I was smoking, so I'd get on a plane, and it's the most ridiculous thing. And you and I may have mentioned this before, but in first class, where I flew a lot, so I would get upgraded to first class quite often. And, you know, rows 1 and 2 are non-smoking, and rows 3 and 4 are smoking. Okay.
Yeah, it's the most ridiculous thing in the world.
And what's even worse is row 5, which is the first row of non-first class, is non-smoking again.
Right.
And it's just incredible that was allowed to go on. Restaurants, as you said, it's delightful for us going into restaurants now because you're not putting up with the cigarette smell, and bars. Yeah, you know, I used it when I was a smoker. I thought, come on, where can we smoke? What's wrong with bars? Just, you know, and now, of course, if as a bar you want people, most of your clientele is smokers, then okay, I can see your argument. But if it's not, and it's general population, it's in your best interest business wise to be non-smoking.
Absolutely. And it's, again, I don't have anything against smokers. It does not truly, in the grand scheme of things, bother me. I just don't want to smell it. I don't want to. My wife's father smoked a lot, and now she has chronic bronchitis because of that. So every night when she goes to bed, she's hacking up, and there's nothing they can do about it. You know, it's not not truly hurting her health. It's just she has a chronic cough now and it's caused by that. So it's little things like that I just it makes me not want to ever be a smoker. It actually,
good. If you're thinking about taking it up now, it's probably not a good time.
Late, but you know, it's those things, and it's the little things. But again, I feel bad for those who do want to smoke, and I understand their argument for wanting to go to a place they enjoy and do something they enjoy. Sure. But I think that feeling is going away as well. It's at least my impression, because more and more smokers realize that, and they're less likely to get upset because they understand that, yes, it's a habit that they have. It's something that they enjoy, but it's not something that the vast majority of people enjoy. So,
and as an ex-smoker, I can tell you that it's most often it's just a justification for being addicted to nicotine. That's all it is. It's not I really enjoy smoking. Well, yeah, but if you're addicted to a chemical, you're going to enjoy it a lot more than if you're not. And that's kind of what it was. These days, a lot of folks are now vaping or whatever. And frankly, as a secondhand smoke recipient these days, I'd much rather they're vaping than, burning a cigarette someplace.
Sure.
Because
it's fantastic, isn't it?
Well, it's actually not bad. We were gonna spray in here some Febreze, but we decided to have Bob come over and do some vaping instead, and it's really made a difference we have a minty freshness now.
There you go. What about clove cigarettes? I had friends that smoked cloves when I was in high school, and I absolutely loved the smell of cloves.
I've never had one.
Really?
No.
I've never tried one, but the friends that I was around, I mean, I liked it better. I like that smell better than the cigarette smoke. But
cigarettes. Yeah, I've heard of them. I just don't know if I have them.
One thing that is interesting that I find fascinating, and I don't know the health drawbacks of this either, but I live in a part of the country where tobacco farming is fairly large. And a lot of the stores that I visit in my day job are in Kentucky, where that is one of the biggest places in the United States for tobacco. And you see tobacco farms everywhere. And in the fall, I might get that wrong timing wise. I think it's the fall. Pretty sure it's the fall. That's when they start smoking the tobacco in these barns. And quite honestly, when they're smoking the tobacco, and when I'm saying smoking, people, I'm not talking about smoking a cigarette. I'm talking about they are drying out the leaves by smoking it like you would barbecue. It's one of the best smells you've ever smelled. I mean, it smells so good when you're driving down the road.
Cigars or cigarettes that they're typically
cigarettes. These are cigarettes.
It's all cigarettes. Okay.
Well, I mean, it could be cigars too. Tobacco is tobacco. It just depends on the quality of leaf, like anything else.
Yeah, I don't know I don't know how that all works, but I know that a good cigar smells delightful if someone else is smoking it.
Yeah.
If I'm smoking it, it's not quite as delightful. Typically.
That's probably why I only do 1 or 2 a year, because I'll smoke it and I'll enjoy it while I'm smoking it. But that aftertaste sticks with me for 3 days. And no matter how much I brush my teeth,
next day you just go, oh.
Yeah. It's nasty. It is so nasty. My mouth feels like a bar that still has smoking in it.
Oh, that's beautiful. I need to put up a non-smoking sign in my mouth.
In my mouth. My mouth. It goes in my mouth.
That's where.
Yeah. So anyway, Jahan, I think there are a few other things that I have looked into that I like. We didn't even get to protein shakes and those sort of things, but is there anything
on your
else?
List? Yeah, protein shakes.
Yes, protein shakes. But is there anything else that you do in your life that you kind of stick to? Going back to my diet as an example, so I do want to try to eat something in the morning. So I don't eat right away. I just eat when I'm hungry, like I said. But when I do eat something, this is my typical diet. And part of this, our fan, is because I'm on the road a lot, and it is very difficult. It's not impossible by any means, but it's very difficult to find really healthy food when you're on the road, as much as we are.
Well, you can't do it accidentally. It has to be on purpose.
Exactly. So one thing I do, because most of the hotels I stay in have a breakfast in the morning, and I can guarantee I'll be right up front. I stay at a Marriott most of the time. If I have to avoid a Marriott, I try not to, but most of the time I'm at a Marriott, and at the Marriotts, the ones that I stay at, they have breakfast served, and it's usually they have scrambled eggs. So
and
what I do
be clear, when you're talking about Marriott's, you're talking about Town Place Suites or Courtyard or Fairfield even. Yep. Okay. Just wanted to make that clear.
Right. So they have breakfast, and I will go down, and the only thing I'll put on my plate is eggs. So when I get hungry, I will eat those eggs, and that's when I'm home too. My wife and I eat a lot of eggs. That is pretty much our morning routine. We don't vary from that very often. I'll throw some cheese in there when I'm at home, but the cheese is actually vegan cheese, so it's not even real cheese. And I'll eat eggs and cheese. That is my breakfast staple. If I can't do that, I try to eat a protein bar, which is not as healthy.
You could do a lot worse. You could do a lot worse than that. Yeah. We do, just on that same note, we often will do, I don't do hard boiled eggs. I do like a medium boiled egg. So if hard boiled is a 10, these are usually like a 7.
Okay.
And I just like them, and I've kind of gotten it down to a science where I'll do a dozen of them, and we just have them in the fridge. And if I'm hungry, I will grab one of those. That's a medium boiled egg, and just grab some sriracha, dude. With sriracha, it is the best on one of those things, and I'll just hammer that like it's nothing, but it fills you up. Sometimes I'll have a couple of them, but it fills you up, and that sriracha just gives it great flavor. I don't know what it is about that particularly, but it makes a difference.
And it's not bad for you because sriracha is just a fermentation of peppers and a few other ingredients. So it's not healthy for you whatsoever. Yeah. My favorite, which is not as healthy on hard-boiled eggs or soft-boiled eggs, I like to sprinkle a little Tony Chachere's Cajun seasesoning on there.
That's not unhealthy.
It's not unhealthy, but it's not as technically as healthy as sriracha. Just the way they process it, because it's all processed food, and you try to avoid processed food as much as possible.
Sure.
So for lunch,
it tastes good.
It does taste good. Yeah, it does. Right. So for lunch, because again, I'm on the road so much and very few options, and I'm not trying to dog the part of the country that I live in, but there aren't very many healthy options when you're driving around when you're on the freeway. There really aren't. It's not like California or some of the bigger cities, Chicago. I've seen them in Chicago too, where you can go and get an acai bowl on the side of the road, drive through. Right. You're looking at your typical McDonald's, your Hardee's, stuff like that. So what I tend to do, just because of that, if I get hungry, is I'll go to a gas station and I'll get a bag of jerky. Yeah. Just regular old jerky and a bag of nuts. And that's what I'll do. And that's what I'll eat. And that'll usually be my lunch. And sometimes that'll be my dinner. But, then I'll get back to the hotel and then I'll try to look for a healthy dinner. Like I'll get a salad or something like that. Mm-hmm. That's usually my routine when I'm on the road.
And the problem,
my routine is completely screwed when I get home, but that is my routine.
I am so with you, because I've lived that life for many years. And so I know exactly what you're talking about. The challenge when like salads you mentioned, I'm going to go healthy. I want to have a salad. I've been to some restaurants where their entree salads are like 12 to 1,500 calories. It can, in some cases, it's the worst thing on the menu. And it just drives me crazy because, it's under the guise of being a healthy choice. And sometimes maybe it's the dressing or whatever, but no matter what, it's so unhealthy. Or if it's a chicken Caesar salad, the chicken is prepared in a way that is just high caloric because, it tastes better.
It's usually because the chicken's fried.
Yeah, fried or whatever, but it tastes better. And you go, oh man, this is delicious. And look how healthy I am. The only other thing that helped me when I was on the road and I was home every night, was packing a cooler. And the cooler would be things like hard-boiled eggs or or medium-boiled eggs or berries or, some sort of fruit that you can just munch on, nuts or whatever. And purposely packing that stuff because like you, I know that it's going to be way better for me to grab some beef jerky and, mix nuts or whatever than it is to hammer a couple of Big Macs because they have a 2 for $5 special, which actually sounds delicious right now.
It does. It really does.
But
that's the worst part of it too.
I know. And it's easy. Not only is it right there off the side of the road, it's a delicious option. I know I'm going to regret this, but I don't care.
I won't go to a fast food restaurant and order a salad. Yeah. So when I order a salad, I either order it from a restaurant where I can see every single ingredient that's on there. And I can pick and choose my own things. So I know what it is so that the calorie count doesn't go that high. Or the other thing I'll do is I used to do this when I traveled in the Southeast region versus where I travel now, which is Midwest, considered Midwest. I actually got into a rhythm where I would only stay at hotels that were next to grocery stores that I could go in and get a salad. go in and get my food there. I haven't quite gotten my route down yet to have that in this area. And a lot of the stores I visit here are in more rural areas, so it's a lot more difficult. But I'm working on that right now as well.
Yeah, and grocery stores, that's a great point. I was just thinking the same thing. Grocery stores, especially these days, will often have a salad bar where you can make your own. And when I was doing a lot of time in Detroit, that was what we did. We went to this awesome restaurant that was on premises of this building where I was every day. And they had this massive salad bar, and you could put as much or as little as you wanted. And not unlike the cafeteria that you're familiar with, Nick, that it's they do it by weight. So the more stuff you put on there, the more it's going to cost you, which I didn't really care. I was trying to be healthy. So I'd put garbanzo beans on, and I'd put on a boatload of chicken and sesame seeds and, whatever. I don't care. Look how heavy those things are. I'm trying to make me not heavy. I don't care how heavy the salad is.
Right. Well, that makes it, you bring up another good point too. And I hear this argument all the time, and there are ways around it. So my wife and I are working on it. It's not a perfect science, but a lot of people will say, well, I want to eat healthier, but it's just so expensive, which in a lot of cases is true. And especially if you're going constantly for organic or locally grown or stuff like that, it is going to be more expensive, but you can still eat healthy on a budget. And it's difficult. I'm not going to say it's easy, but it can be done, and it can be done easily,
I think.
Right. And to your point too, one thing that is a luxury for us and is the fact that our company, when we're on the road, pays for our food. So I can go to the grocery store, and even though it's measured by weight, I can start scooping stuff on my salad because I don't have to pay for it. Within reason. I mean, we do have limits, so it's not like we're spending $1,000 on a salad. But
boy, that'd be heavy. I actually put cement on my salad, and it didn't come to $1,000.
Well, it's all organic.
Organic
cement. Remember, it's organic, so it gets very, very heavy. It's only $999.98,
and there you go.
But there are ways to eat healthy. We shop a lot at Aldi. We love Aldi. I know a lot of people that shop, and we probably would shop there more if it were closer, but a lot of people shop at Trader Joe's. Both are technically the same company. If you ever look up the documentary, The Difference Between Aldi and Trader Joe's on YouTube, back to our YouTube thing. It's very interesting.
Interesting.
Did you know that they're the same company?
I did not.
It's not the same company.
I did not.
They're actually brothers.
Genius.
They're brothers. Anyway, so you can find some really good, very healthy food there. Create a meal plan. And when I say meal plan, I'm not talking about making it all on Sunday and eating it throughout the week. I'm talking about planning your meals out. You can do a very healthy diet, but it takes work. That's, I guess, my long rambling goes back to this. If you want to eat healthy, but you still want to make it good, it's going to be work.
Yeah. Great point. Great point. And I think that's really what it comes down to. We talk about diet and exercise as if they're exclusive to one another, and they're really not. It's just going to take some work and some focus for you to do either one well. And whether it's dieting or whether it's exercising, you've got to be committed, and you have to know in advance, or you should know in advance, that there's going to be some work to it, because this stuff doesn't come easy. And as much as we'd all like to say, oh, this is an easy diet, it may be true for some people, but if it's easy, you're probably not going to stick to it. There just seems to be something about it that when, it's a little extra work or a little extra effort, it makes it worth it to try harder and to do it, and not ad nauseum, but to do it, as you said earlier, Nick, to make sure we're doing it in some sort of moderation, both the exercise and the diet. So you're not driving yourself nuts. You're not constantly walking around injured, and you're just, in general, taking better care of yourself.
Absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. And what a great note to end on. And that would be the fact that, everything in moderation, like social media, And even though you don't want to take our social media channels in moderation, you want to gorge yourself on those, because you can
gorge yourself, please.
Gorge. You can find us on Facebook. You can find the PoddiMouths on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you can also help support our wonderful little podcast and hear more about our crazy diets and our smoking stories by supporting us on Patreon. Become a patron. And also, go to our PoddiMouths.com website, because up there you can actually see some of our episodes. You can comment on our episodes. And in those comments, if you have questions, or if you want to hear about a certain topic that you might think John and I have funny stories about, well, I have funny stories about because I just like to talk a lot. Well, they might not
make
be
them
fun.
up. If we need to make up stories, we'll make them up.
We're really good at we're storytellers.
Not proud.
That's
proud.
what we are. Not proud at all. No, I have no shame. No shame. I should be on Shameless. Great show. We should do a whole episode on the TV show Shameless. But anyway, once again, I digress. Follow us on all of the social media networks. Leave us comments. Let us know what we're doing right, what you think we're doing wrong. That could open up a whole bag of worms. Right,
we can handle it.
You can also email us at poddimouths@gmail.com. But if you don't mind, if you get up to iTunes, get up to Google Play or Amazon or all of the places that our podcast is hosted, and you can still hear Bonnie in the background. If you go up to all those places, download our episodes, show us some love, and really make it easier for our podcast to be found by other fans, so we don't have to just rely on our one wonderful fan.
Absolutely. And just so we're clear, you probably see it already, and that's okay. But just so you know, it's PODDIMOUTHS.
Yeah, it's plural. Don't make the mistake I made in our first episode. It is PoddiMouths. PoddiMouths.
Both of us.
Both of us. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Not just one. We both have
my
PoddiMouths.
ego is pretty huge, but John is helping me out a little bit with that.
Not that much. I mostly just massage your shoulders.
Oh, I thought you were going to say massage my ego. Either way.
I'll get there soon enough, mister.
John, as always, it was fantastic talking to you.
My pleasure, brother. Thank you so much for the time. And thanks to our fan. We'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
Have a great day.